All right, hi everyone. This is Chapter 1, Lesson 8 for Gryffindor Math on slope. So basically this entire lesson we're going to be talking about what slope is and how we define it. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to look up here, the very top of the page. We zoom in, okay? Blank is the rate of change between any 2 points on a line. So in that line, you're going to write slope. So slope is the rate of change between any 2 points on a line. Now, there are a lot of different ways that we can actually look at slope. So basically the idea is we've seen all these representations of slope. So the first one is M, which stands for our slope, equals the rise over the run. A lot of you probably have already heard that one from 6th grade, but it is, so you rise and then you run, okay? So you have to climb and then you have to run, right? Another way that we can look at slope is change in Y over change in X. And this symbol right here, it's called delta in Greek, but it means change. So this means change. You may want to write that somewhere. Okay, so that means change. Right. A third way we can look at slope is the vertical change over the horizontal change. Okay, so you do vertical change over horizontal change. And vertical change is going up and down, and horizontal change is going across. So vertical change is going up and down, and horizontal is going across like that, okay? So over on the left-hand side, we have in a linear relationship, the blank change in Y value per unit. Okay, so in that first blank, you're going to write vertical. Okay. So in a linear relationship, the vertical change, or the change in Y per unit of blank change, in that one you're going to write horizontal. Change in X value is always the same, okay? So in a linear relationship, the vertical change per unit of horizontal change is always the same. So if it forms a straight line, the change is always the same. It always goes up and over the same amount every time, okay? The second sentence I have down here is the ratio is called the blank of the function. So the ratio is called the slope of the function. The constant rate of change is the blank as slope. So the constant rate of change is the same as slope. So slope and constant rate of change, what we learned about in the last lesson, is the exact same thing. It's just called something different, okay? Usually we use slope when we're looking at graphs, and we use constant rate of change when we're looking at word problems and equations, okay? And then this last sentence down here, it says the slope tells us how blank the line is. So the slope tells us how steep the line is. Okay, it tells us how far it goes up and how fast it goes up, okay? So, looking at this little graph right here, okay, we can see that the slope is rise over run, okay? So I'm gonna use some highlighters. So my rise is gonna be blue. So I'm going up by the same amount every time. See, I'm going up by 2. So it's constant, it doesn't change, right? Then my run, I'm gonna use yellow. okay, is 3. So every time I'm going up 2 over 3, up 2 over 3, up 2 over 3. So my rise is 2, right? And my run is 3. So my slope is my rise 2 over my run 3. So rise over run. So every time it's always you go up and then over, okay? So let's look at an example. A little bit, all right. Okay. So the table shows the length of a patio as blocks are added. So we can see the number of patio blocks starts at 0, right? And the length of the patio is 0. So for each block I add 8 inches in length, right? So the first block I add 8 inches. The second block, I add 16. The third, I add 24. The fourth, I add 32. So each time, I'm going up by 8, right? I add 8 each time, so it's a constant rate. It's a constant rate, okay? So I want to graph the data, then find the slope of the line. So the first thing is this is change in y. It's supposed to be change in y, okay? So change in y over change in x. So I'm going to take any 2 points, all right? I'm going to pick 24 and 8, okay? So since I picked 24 and 8, the corresponding x values are 3 and 1, right? Okay, so I'm going to write that out. 24 minus 8, because change means I subtract. So 24 minus 8, the first point I chose and the second point I chose, over 3 minus 1. So 24 minus 8 gives me 16. 3 minus 1 gives me 2. So I have 16 over 2. That equals, I can divide both of these by 2. So 8. 16 divided by 2 is 8. And 2 divided by 2 is 1. We can see over here on the graph, after we've graphed all the points, we went over 1, up 8, over 2, up to 16, over to 3, up to 24, over to 4, up to 32, okay? So we see this is a straight line. It's going through 0, so that's really important. Okay, so for every 8 inches, there is 1 patio block. All right, now you have a try it problem. So go ahead, pause the video, try the try it problem out on your own. Then after you're done, unpause the video and we'll go over it together. All right, now that you've tried the try it problem, let's go over it together. So it says graph the data, then find the slope of the line. Explain what the slope represents. So the data that they gave me was cases and juice bottles. So for one case, there's 12 juice bottles. Okay, so I'm going to come over here to my graph, and it says bottles on the y-axis and cases on the x-axis. So that tells me cases is x, juice bottles is y. Okay, so x, so one case, so go over 1 up to 12, make a point, go over 2 up to 24, make my next point, over to 3 up to 36, and then over to 4 up to 48. Okay, so there's my data that I've graphed. Okay, you can use a straight edge to draw a straight line. So here's my line. Okay. This data will continue to go up, right? Okay, it is a straight line. Okay, so now I want to choose 2 points to find my slope. You can choose any 2 points that you want. It will still give you the same answer. So I'm going to choose 36 and 12. Okay? So that means I need to look at 3 and 1. Okay? So slope is the change in y over the change in x, right? So my y value is 36 minus 12 over 3 minus 1. 36 minus 12 gives me 24. 3 minus 1 gives me 2. This isn't simplified though, so I need to divide both of these by a number. Well, 2 goes into both 24 and 2. So 24 divided by 2 gives me 12 over 1. This tells me there are 12 juice bottles. Okay, this tells me there are 12 juice bottles in every case. This tells me there are 12 juice bottles in every case. Okay, and that is the end of lesson 8.